Why do you look so nervous? Travelers like you always have something to hide.
I've given you my ID and my boarding pass. That's everything you need.
You don't tell me what I need. I can pull you aside for as long as I want.
Or you can follow protocol and stop profiling me.
You really think I don't know who you
Then
are?
you already know you're making the wrong.
The airport was full of life and sound. Rolling suitcases hummed over shiny floors, and the speakers above repeated flight updates in flat, steady voices. The line for security wound back toward the glass doors where taxis dropped off new passengers. At the far end of the line, a young woman stepped forward quietly. She wore a simple blue jacket, dark pants, and old sneakers. Her look was plain, nothing special. Her body moved with ease, like she had no reason to hurry. But her eyes moved differently. They studied everything and everyone without making it obvious. She walked with the flow of the crowd, blending in like she had done it 1,000 times before. When her turn came, she placed her bag on the belt, dropped her phone in a small plastic tray, and handed her boarding pass to the officer at the scanner. Her name, at least for now, was Lena Hart, though not many people knew that name was real. The officer checking her documents was an older man, heavy built with thinning hair and sharp eyes that didn't look kind. He barely looked at her papers before squinting at her face. "Step aside," he said quickly. Lena tilted her head slightly. Her face gave away nothing. She stepped out of line and let the other passengers move ahead. She had met this kind of man before, the type who thought power meant control, who let bias feel like authority. "What's the problem?" she asked in a calm tone. The man, his badge read Officer R. Grant, gave a small smirk. It was the kind that was meant to get under someone's skin. "Where are you headed in such a hurry?" he asked, leaning closer than he needed to. "Business?" "Business," Lena said softly, her voice steady, revealing nothing more. "Business, huh?" Grant laughed a little, circling her like a wolf. "You look nervous. Got something to hide?" Nearby, people tried not to stare, but they were watching. The line slowed as whispers started to move through the crowd. Lena stayed calm. Her hands rested loosely by her sides, her eyes never wavering. "I've given you my documents. That's all you need." Grant's smirk vanished. His face turned hard, his jaw tightening. He stepped closer, ignoring the security cameras above and the dozen witnesses around him. His voice dropped lower, and the edges of his words turned sharp. "You don't tell me what I need." Then, in an instant, everything changed. His hands shot forward, and his thick fingers clamped around her throat. People gasped. Someone whispered, "Is he serious?" Another person fumbled for their phone to record. Time seemed to stop. Lena's eyes locked on his. No fear. No panic. Only calculation. Then her body reacted, quick, sharp, and trained. Her left hand shot up and trapped his wrist. Her right elbow drove into his forearm with perfect precision. His grip broke. In one smooth motion, she twisted, turned, and threw him hard to the ground. His radio slid across the floor. The terminal went silent. People stepped back, shocked. Some were shouting. Others had their phones up, recording everything. Grant groaned, stunned and humiliated, pinned beneath a woman half his size. Lena leaned close enough for everyone to hear her words. "You picked the wrong passenger." From her jacket, she pulled out a small leather case. Inside was a silver badge that glinted under the bright airport lights. "Federal agent," she said clearly, her voice steady and firm. "This man is under arrest for assault." The crowd gasped. A child whispered, "She's a spy." The mother hushed him, eyes wide. Two security officers rushed over, confused and unsure what to do. But Lena didn't look away from Grant. He lay on the ground, breathing hard, his face burning with anger and shame as cameras caught every moment of his fall. The air felt heavy. Power had switched sides. Lena stood up, straightened her jacket, and said loudly, "Go back to your duties. The situation is under control." But as she watched other guards drag Grant away, something darker flickered in her mind. His attack hadn't been random. He hadn't just chosen her out of anger or pride. He was trying to expose her. If he knew who she really was, then others might too. Her mission had suddenly become far more dangerous. Later, Lena sat in a cold room deep inside the airport's security wing. The bright fluorescent lights buzzed loudly, filling the silence. Her badge rested on the metal table between her and two airport supervisors who had rushed in after the scene. The older supervisor, a woman with gray hair and a firm voice, tapped her pen on her clipboard. "Agent Hart, you've caused quite a scene." Lena leaned back in her chair, calm and sure of herself. "Correction," she said. "Your officer caused the scene. I ended it." The second supervisor, younger and nervous, shifted in his seat. "We've reviewed the video," he said softly. "No doubt he assaulted you. But Grant has worked here 15 years. This," he hesitated, "this doesn't look good for the department." Lena gave a faint smile. "That's not my concern. My concern is why a man with 15 years on the job would throw it all away to attack a passenger in front of everyone." The supervisors exchanged uneasy looks. "Unless," Lena added, leaning forward, "he thought I wasn't just a passenger." The room fell silent. Finally, the older woman spoke, her tone low. "You think he knew who you were?" Lena's eyes hardened. "I think he suspected, which means my cover is already compromised." She left the room with permission to continue her mission, though not without argument. The airport authorities didn't like having a federal agent on their grounds, especially one who just put one of their own in handcuffs. But Lena couldn't pull out now. Too much was at risk. Her target wasn't Grant. He was only one part of something bigger. For months, intelligence reports had pointed to a smuggling ring working inside the airport, hiding in plain sight. Security staff, baggage workers, and even some customs officers were suspected of moving illegal goods through private channels. Grant's attack had proved it. Corruption ran deep. Lena moved through the terminal again, blending back into the flow of travelers. Families juggling passports, tired tourists clutching pillows, and business people shouting into phones. To anyone else, it looked like chaos. To her, it was a map full of signs. She noticed small details. A baggage worker giving a quiet nod to a guard, a man passing a thin folder near a vending machine, and a janitor who lingered too long by a restricted door. None of it looked suspicious to normal eyes, but to her, it was a pattern. The ring was here, active, watching. That evening, Lena sat at an observation deck that overlooked the runways. The air smelled faintly of jet fuel and old coffee. She opened her laptop, connected through a secure line, and waited. After a few seconds, a grainy face appeared on her screen, her handler. "Report," the voice said. "Grant made me," Lena replied. "He acted before I could figure out why. I stopped him, but I believe he's connected to the smuggling network." Her handler frowned. "Connected how?" "I don't know yet," Lena said, her tone thoughtful. "But his actions weren't random. He tried to make a scene, like he wanted the others to know I was a threat." Her handler nodded. "That changes the timeline. You'll have to move faster." The screen went dark. Lena stared at her reflection. She didn't like rushing. Rushed missions led to mistakes, and mistakes led to casualties. But she could feel the tension in the air. The smugglers were preparing something big. If Grant had risked everything to blow his cover, the network was already desperate. And desperate people were dangerous. By midnight, the airport had quieted. The bright lights still shone, the machines still hummed, and the smell of jet fuel lingered. But the passengers were fewer now, just a handful of sleepy travelers waiting for late flights. Lena moved among the night workers, wearing a reflective vest and a baseball cap that shadowed her face. She looked like part of the crew, but under the disguise, she was alert, every sense awake. She had followed leads all day and they all pointed to one place, Gate 47 in the cargo area. That's where the smugglers were planning their biggest move yet. Through the tall windows, she saw a cargo plane waiting on the tarmac, floodlights shining off its silver body. Trucks lined up nearby, and workers loaded crates one after another. To anyone else, it looked normal. But Lena knew better. She touched the earpiece hidden under her cap. "This is Hart," she whispered. "They're loading now. Confirm backup." Static crackled before her handler's voice came through. "2 teams on standby. We move when you give the signal." Lena scanned the area. 3 men in airport uniforms stood near the plane. One of them looked familiar, the same officer who had spotted her earlier that day. His eyes moved constantly, searching. He was looking for her. Lena moved closer, pretending to inspect a nearby pallet of boxes. She listened carefully. "Shipment leaves tomorrow. Final check." Her pulse quickened. She whispered, "Confirmed. They're moving something out with cargo tomorrow morning. I need eyes on Gate 47. Her handler's voice replied softly, "Copy. Be careful, Lena. If they know who you are, you're not just hunting them anymore. They're hunting you." Lena's eyes flicked toward the officers again. One turned and looked straight at her. Their gazes locked. He didn't react, but she knew. He had seen her. And just like that, the game had begun. The airport never truly slept. Even at 3 in the morning, the fluorescent lights glared bright, conveyor belts hummed softly, and the air carried that mix of jet fuel and cleaning spray. Only a few tired passengers sat half asleep in chairs while workers moved quietly through the halls, cleaning, refueling, and checking planes. Lena Hart moved among them, looking like any other ground worker. She wore a yellow safety vest over her dark clothes and a baseball cap pulled low to shadow her face. But under that calm disguise, every sense was sharp. Her mind was focused on one place, Gate 47, the cargo area. All her clues had led here. The smuggling ring she'd been tracing for months was about to make a big move tonight. Through the wide windows, she could see a cargo plane parked on the tarmac. Its silver body glimmered under floodlights. Trucks and forklifts moved around it, loading crates into its open bay. To a regular person, it was an ordinary late-night shipment. To Lena, it was the center of something much bigger. She pressed a hand to her earpiece. "This is Hart," she whispered. "They're loading now. Confirm backup." After a moment, static filled her ear. Then her handler's voice came through, quiet but tense. "2 teams ready on standby. We move when you give the signal." "Copy," Lena said softly. She scanned the workers again, her eyes catching 3 men in airport security uniforms standing a little apart from the rest. They weren't working, just watching. Their body language was all wrong. Too stiff, too careful. One of them was the same man who'd spotted her earlier that evening. His eyes darted around the cargo floor, scanning faces, searching. "He's looking for me," she thought. Lena moved closer, pretending to check labels on a stack of boxes. She was careful not to draw attention. From where she stood, she could hear them speak in low voices. "Shipment leaves tomorrow. Final check." Her pulse jumped. That was it, the signal she'd been waiting for. She tilted her head slightly and whispered into the mic, "Confirmed. They're moving something out with cargo tomorrow morning. I'll need eyes on Gate 47 until dawn." Her handler's voice replied, crackling through faint static, "Understood. Be careful, Lena. If they know who you are, you're not just chasing them, they're chasing you." She didn't answer. Her gaze stayed locked on the officers. One turned slightly, and their eyes met. He didn't react, didn't move, but she knew. He'd seen her. And that's when it began. The clock hit 3:15 a.m. The terminal was almost silent now. Only a few engines hummed in the distance. The cargo workers moved with mechanical rhythm, lifting, rolling, and stacking. Lena stayed near the shadows, keeping her cap low. Her heart beat steadily, every movement measured. She counted 6 people near the plane, 3 in uniform, 3 in plain clothes. All looked like they knew each other too well. Her eyes landed on one particular crate. It was bigger than the rest, metal reinforced, and black with strange markings across its surface. It wasn't on any list she'd seen. She whispered into her mic, "Mark the black crate. 4x4, reinforced steel. That's the target." Before her handler could respond, a voice rang out behind her. Well, look who decided to join the party." Lena froze. She turned slowly. There stood Officer Grant, no longer in uniform. He wore plain clothes now, his face bruised from their earlier fight, but his smirk was full of pride. Behind him were 2 other men, both in security jackets, both holding pistols fitted with silencers. Grant stepped closer, his grin ugly and full of anger. "You think you humiliated me?" he said, his voice shaking with fury. "You just walked into the lion's den." Lena's body stiffened. Her fingers twitched near her waist, ready. Grant nodded to his men. "End it." The first silenced shot hissed through the air. Lena dropped instantly, rolling behind a forklift. The bullet struck metal and sparked. Another shot followed, breaking glass behind her. Her pulse stayed steady. She reached out, grabbed a wrench from a nearby tool kit, and flung it with force. It hit one gunman's wrist. The pistol dropped. Lena moved like lightning. She rushed forward, drove her elbow into his jaw, spun him around, and knocked him to the floor. In the same motion, she caught his falling gun, aimed, and fired a single quiet shot into the shoulder of the second man. He fell back, groaning in pain. Grant stumbled backward, shock crossing his bruised face. "You don't know what you're messing with, Agent," he shouted. "This is bigger than me, bigger than all of us." Lena aimed her weapon at him, eyes cold and sharp. "Then let's start small. With you." Grant snarled and shoved a hand against the large black crate, yelling, "Load it now." The crate slid onto the moving conveyor belt toward the plane. Inside, something metallic clanged, heavy and dangerous. Lena's instincts screamed. If that crate got onto the plane, the mission was lost. She broke into a run. Everything exploded into chaos. The sound of muffled gunfire echoed through the cargo bay. Forklifts screeched. Workers scattered in every direction. Lena ducked behind boxes, then lunged forward, kicking one smuggler in the chest. He dropped. She rolled and fired another silenced shot that hit the conveyor's control panel. Sparks flew, and the machine froze. The black crate stopped halfway up the ramp. Grant cursed loudly and charged her with a knife in his hand. His face twisted with rage. He swung wildly, but Lena sidestepped, grabbed his wrist, and twisted hard. The knife clattered to the ground. He punched with his other hand, but she ducked and drove her knee into his ribs. He fell to his knees, gasping for air. She cuffed his hands behind his back, breathing hard. "You think this ends with me?" Grant rasped, coughing. "This ring runs through every airport, every port. You can't stop it." Lena leaned close, her eyes like steel. "Watch me." Moments later, flashing red and blue lights filled the cargo wing. Federal agents stormed in, weapons drawn. The smugglers who were still standing were quickly forced to the ground. Others were already in cuffs. Lena stood off to the side, catching her breath. She watched as agents surrounded the large black crate. It was sealed tight, but the team treated it like it could explode at any second. Whatever was inside, it wasn't just contraband, it was dangerous. The sun was beginning to rise, painting the horizon in orange and pink. The chaos had quieted now. Agents carried boxes away, trucks rolled up to take the evidence, and the airport slowly began to return to its normal rhythm. Lena stood near the edge of the tarmac, the cool morning air brushing against her face. Her vest was dirty, her hair a mess, but her posture stayed straight. Her handler approached from behind, hands in his pockets. "Hell of a night," he muttered. Lena didn't reply at first. Her eyes followed the trucks carrying away the black crate. She could still hear Grant's last words echoing in her head. Finally, she said quietly, "Grant wasn't lying. This isn't just one airport. It's a network. A global one." Her handler gave a slow nod. "Then I guess your mission just got bigger." Lena took a deep breath, pulled off her vest, and handed it to one of the ground crew. Then she slipped back into the terminal, blending once again with the stream of travelers heading to their flights. To them, she was invisible. Just another tired passenger, maybe someone late for a plane. But under that calm face and quiet walk, her mind was already planning the next move. Because she knew this wasn't over. The ring was bigger, smarter, and more connected than anyone had guessed. And somewhere out there, others like Grant were still working in the shadows. She tightened her jacket, glanced at a flight board, and began walking toward a new gate. The war against the network had only just begun.